So right now I'm mocking up a little low profile frame. Not quite sure how it's going to end up, but this is my starting point. So cutting off the corners. So the level of this surface seems to be a bit higher than over here. So I think I'm just going to end up having to put some little spacers under that piece. You can see that the main cover sort of tips up there as well. Obviously this cover is very fractionally above there, so I don't want this resting on it. So let me tack this frame up, and when it's nice and flat and one piece, I'll see where it ends up. So that's the frame tigged up. So there's a bit of a step in the cover here, and obviously the original penthouse base is heavily profiled. But there we go. So if I put a 5mm spacer under there, everything other than the battery terminals is nicely below that. This connector may require a speed bump. So what I'm envisaging is sheet steel. I'll just weld it onto the top of this all the way around to bridge the gap around the frame. I'll put some riv nuts or welded nuts into this, and then I'll design a cover later once I've figured out exactly what's going in here. Just need to confirm that the pyro fuse is going to be safe sat there and out of the way of the seats. Actually, looking at it in the car, it's actually offset to the passenger side. So it's definitely out the way of the driver's seat. So maybe I just sacrifice a little bit of rearward travel on the passenger seat. But I think I'll wait until it is all in. It's also having a play, just having the Model 3 console in there. If I did that, I'm not sure if trimming it would make it look a bit more classic, or whether I'd just go the whole hog and try and keep a Tesla interior. Don't know, it's one to think about. It's a heavy paper template. I'm actually using wallpaper lining paper for making patterns. Nice and cheap and decent size. It's handy having a roll on hand. So yeah, so that pattern. So to save sheet, I'll overlap this 10mm probably on the inside. Not sure. Think about that, because I want the cover probably to be full width. So maybe I'll just go up flush, weld it along the seam, and then, yeah, I'll probably do that, and then have a full size cover. Right. That's the template realised into steel. So I'll weld the frame onto the infill piece. Probably seam weld that because it's literally just right to the edge. So you can see it. So I've cut out carefully, so I've got the full piece as a cover. So I'll probably bond and stitch this onto the original cover. You can see my sheets metal supply didn't have sheet quite wide enough, so I had to tig an extra little bit on there. But yeah, so what I'm thinking at the moment is to have a completely flat plate, removable with captive nuts in this frame. The BMS ones will just live under that screwed on cover, and I'm thinking of 3D printing some little power bulges over each end, and then I'll have to cut a bigger section out and 3D print a bigger cover to go over the pyro fuse. Got some ASA material for that. Also received the high voltage cable from Felton and some terminals. By dismantling the hard aluminium line from the connector, it looks like I'll be able to just put a terminal in there and then bolt into this plug. So that'll be a lot neater. I'll just have to work out the interlocks, because I think it has a continuity thing that goes through the outside of the aluminium tube sort of cable. Don't know where it is at the moment. Yeah. So playing around with the center console. Okay, that's turned out quite nicely. So I've tigged in some M6 nuts, drilled 11mm holes, and then they pressed in nicely, and I just buzzed around with the MIG, and just the flat wheels getting, sorry, no, with the TIG, and then buzz around with a flat wheel just to clean things up. So I have to tidy up the battery cover and get this welded in. So relocating the pyro fuse, you can see sort of the yellow marking. I've cut this plastic frame off around here, mainly because it's got these inserts and the holder for the actual pyro connector here, and this one I think is some sort of current monitoring board there. So those are the two that will need to be extended, but that'll sit nicely just straight on the battery and obviously be nicely insulated. I'll see if I have to print up maybe any extra supports just to hold it a bit better, but everything else will stay as is, and if I find it's not to my liking, I can refit it back in here. So I've kept the locating features and things, so yeah. And that's where it will sit, just on its own on the battery. Luckily there's a hole in this centre beam. It's a bit dark, but it hasn't been threaded, so I'll run a tap down there, and that will hold it quite nicely, I think. Might be a little bit close to my new frame, so I've just sealed that up as well. I'll have to stick it on the battery tomorrow and just make sure, yeah, when it's dry, make sure I've still got clearance. So I've got these covers on as well, and the cover that I'm going to print to go over the top will be plastic, so it will be insulated, but yeah, things to check. So now getting to the point of trying to work out all the electrical connections and cooling. So instead of waiting for the whole battery, I've just bolted in the cover in place just to check mainly the one down the right. So the one on the left is fine. I've just shortened it by the same amount of the battery. The one I'm going to have to rejig, so I was hoping to be able to use this joiner which was in the pipe for some reason. So this is the battery motor, so the PCS power controller return or supply, one of those. So that has to go where it snakes up over the motor and pops up there nicely. So I'll clean up the holes. The motor, which is the middle one, is a bit short, unfortunately. So I've cut a hole, and I could get the original coolant and motor lines up through it, but it's about 200mm short, so I think I'm going to buy another one and splice them together. Fewer the joins, the better. I don't think I'll be able to get hold of the original terminals. The HVAC connector should be okay, just snaking its way up, similar to this PCS power. Just go up over the motor, probably get it up above the insulation, and then poke up. Down here, you can see the motor connector is on, so is the coolant bottle, roughly in place. So that's the original pipe. It will go but I think I'm going to replace it with the heater hose. It's much more flexible, and this is sort of aged and taken a set and putting a bit of strain on the connectors. So I'd rather not do that. But otherwise the cover's looking all right. I'm currently printing a cover for the pyro section. But yeah, I'll show you. Get rid of this. It could have been messy. There you go, roughly see that's the new penthouse area. It's actually pretty low profile, so it will be nicely out of the way. So we see all my mess. Yeah, obviously that's going to need cleaning up as well, but motor connector and the coolant coming up there. That one comes out at quite a nice angle. That's the original cooling connection, so that's going to go straight. That'll be perfect, really. That'll go up to there. Yeah, running out of jobs to get it going anyway. So I have to extend these wires. I have to weld in an earth connection for the 12 volt. And start thinking about mounting the seat. Also rescued the RCM bracket from one of the old cross member. Obviously that's airbag controller, yaw control for the stability system and everything. Not sure where I'll mount that, but somewhere under a center console of sorts. Actually, I think that might be backwards. I think I might. Yeah, no, it was that way around. So I'm guessing for the stability it would be better to be closer to the sort of fore-aft relative position between the axles. So probably go around there. Maybe modify that bracket. Okay, so that's that main pipe shortened. I'll have to see when all the shields are back in place whether that's okay to stay there, but plenty of space to the wheels. That's the main thing. I can make it work otherwise. Printing the cover for the pyro fuse and connections. It's just a quick SLS mock-up. I'll refine the design afterwards. Still learning all this 3D printing stuff. So rough cuts, but there you go. The 8-track cables go along this track, and the front motor goes down the middle if you have a front motor. I had to relieve a load of cable at the front end. It is quite a loopy route on the bulkhead, so I've freed up some length, and it's, as you can see, goes nicely into position. This is a bit bigger than I'd like because that's a huge connector and it's bad enough snaking it up past the insulation and the motor, but for these I'll print up some nice little molded, well not molded, printed covers to seal it up for the noise. Also for that heater I'll do something else, maybe just a grommet or something. But that was the tricky one. So I think I'm just going to do some tidying up, get some priming done underneath before the battery goes in permanently. And for the pyro, so this is the piece that came off the printer. Nice and tight, that lines up with one of my mounting holes there. See, in two pieces because my printer's not big enough. That was just a quick mock-up. I'll probably put some riv nuts into the steel cover that's going over the top. Probably increase these flanges a little bit, I think. Maybe extend that one up to meet that mounting point. And there are some areas where I can slim it down, because obviously this is where the seat backs are going to come up to. So the slimmer the better. Obviously I've got some learning to do with how to use the support, so I just let it do auto and it had supports all over the place. But if I put a bit more taper in these sidewalls, I can probably do most of it without supports actually. Only this bit when it's up on its end. So the front connections, there was a moulded sort of guide piece in those, but so I can put those a bit more straight and then unclip this one, move that one to there. There's loads of space still. I think I've gained about 100mm length, and that was, as you can see from the back, just enough. That's the steel bit trimmed down. So yeah, I think I've got space, plenty of space underneath in certain areas to put riv nuts, so I'll make that a separate removable piece. And also once I've got this in the car and worked out where the seat is mounting and how low I need to make that bit, these holes are just temporary. I'll probably have to make them bigger, because when I fit the terminals, when I fit this clamp terminal, it potentially can go much lower, in fact even below this level, so it might just need a speed bump. But then I need to figure out exactly where the cable's going to come in, because the cable is 20mm OD, so that's fairly significant. So I'll see, maybe it can go in just down here straight and then loop back up to the penthouse. Don't know, we'll see. Progress. Okay, it's on to lots of little jobs now. So you can see I've just red oxide all the new bits of steel in there. Made up this brace using the original nut plates, so they were slid down and welded in. I'll wait until I've got the battery and the battery connections done before I decide exactly where that's going to go. But that's pretty much bang on. That's with, I put the seat in the furthest rearwards position electrically before I shut it down. Spot welded that. So our RCS module, yeah, RCM. So I don't forget. Obviously Matt Armstrong blow a load of airbags up. Yeah, just tidying really. Removing the coolant end pieces. As you can see, that's what they typically look like once you've taken the plastic, the solid plastic off. Perfect, really tight fit, but a little bit too big for the spring clamps I bought, so I'm gonna have to get some more of the size up. But yeah, knocking away the jobs.